Good morning.
How are we, sir?
I'm doing good. How about you, buddy?
I'm just tracking away, trying to get some ideas, trying to pull the brain into motion, and always slow, but we get there in the end.
Yeah. Well, hey, Billy, this is my co-host and good friend of mine, Dan Williams.
Hey, how's it going?
With me.
Hey, Dan, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Sounds like you're having a pretty good morning over there tracking away, you said?
I'm trying to. Yeah, it's always a trial. One never knows. I always call it going fishing because you never know. One day you catch one, and the other day you don't get anything. So
yeah,
that's my plan.
It's a happy surprise when it comes through, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, we have with us today at Tape Noise Podcasts Billy Livsey, producer, keyboardist, songwriter extraordinaire. So thanks for joining us.
You forgot Dog Walker.
What? And Dog
You
Walker.
forgot Dog Walker.
Dog Walker. Man. Oh, by the way, how was your dog? You said you had to take him to the vet?
We're coming. Yeah, we could be coming to the end of the road, but
oh man, I'm sorry.
She's doing all right, and she was a rescue dog, so she's had a second life anyway. She's been with a long time, so
what kind
it's
of
all
dog
good,
is she?
She's kind of mix, huge mix. I mean, we're talking primarily lab, a bit of pit bull, a bit of pretty well everything.
Yeah.
Well, those are the best dogs. Best dogs I've ever had were mutts,
Yeah, exactly. Well, they're very loyal. That's the thing I really like. She's always been really protective of her. Well, my wife found her, and so when I was out of town, when I came back, the dog was there, and the dog didn't want to know about me. He was protecting my wife. So it took a few years for her to accept me. So, but we're pals now, so it's all good.
Well, that's great. Yeah. So how old is she?
Oh, geez, she's about 12, 13, something like that. We don't really know because she came, we just found her, so it's one of those.
We have a lab boxer, something
great.
else mix. She's a mutt too. I've had to take her to the animal hospital a couple times over the past few weeks, and she's only like 9.
Oh, right. Oh, that's tough. Yeah.
But I mean, she's doing much better. I mean, they kind of gave us the, well, here's your options kind of conversation, and we chose to treat. But anyway, animal lovers here, so
yeah, good.
Yeah. So yeah, man, it's awesome. So yeah, I mean, you want to go on and talk about audio and music? What are you tracking right now, or can you say? Is it?
Well, it's the only thing I know vaguely, so that's what I'm sticking with. I mean, I don't know if you wanted to start from beginnings or what I'm doing now or whatever. It doesn't really matter to me.
Well, what are you working on right now?
Right now, I'm working on some library music. It's like production music, and it's background music. There's a couple of companies. Well, I can tell you the whole story about going to England, but I go there all the time, and one of my kids was born over there and stuff. So with my wife's English, so we got a lot of connections with England. Anyway, there's 2 companies over there in London that I've been working with, and it's the kind of music where it's fun. I mean, it's a blast because you're not worried about doing a complete song, and you're trying to create an atmosphere more than anything. And if I can get a couple of guys in to play with me, it's much more fun. But everybody's worried about budgets nowadays, so it's kind of tough on that respect. But when I do, I just have a blast because the choice is limitless in Nashville. There's so many great players here, so we do all sorts of things. I mean, this one I'm working with is this particular song is more of a kind of soundtrack, very lonely piano kind of thing. And I'm just doing, but I'm trying to get different sounds. I'm really on the quest instead of going in and trying to do, spending fortunes on, plugins and stuff like that. I'm just making up noises with cardboard boxes and dog chains and God knows what,
So you're doing almost a Foley type thing. Sounds
it's kind of like that, but then you kind of make it musical. You make it on,
awesome.
You kind of line it up on the beat and make it sound like, well, there's your percussion, so slapping a shoe around, it's fun.
That's like Kodachrome with Paul Simon that was done here in Muscle Shoals. Was part of the drum beat was a tape box filled with like tissue paper or something.
I love that.
It sounds so cool. I recorded a guy I work with all the time, Eddie Martin. He's a dear friend, and we work together all the time. He did a track with me. It's been about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I guess. He came back in and just did a thing where he was doing like a kind of on his chest was his percussion thing. He just stood in front of a mic and played a percussion part on his chest, and that was really cool.
Golly, got a load off his chest then. Yeah,
Yeah,
that sounds
literally.
good.
So are you doing like sync licensing bed music? Is that kind of?
Yeah, it's kind of like sync licensing. It depends. All companies work different ways.
Right.
And this one is just one. We kind of split things in a deal. And it used to be years ago that it was great because they would give you a budget to do it. But
Right.
Unfortunately,
Now
it's
it's
so
kind of-
competitive. Yeah, no, budgets are really tight. So you just sling stuff out there and you get little, pennies trickling through. But, your stuff comes through and like, your stuff like the Algonquin Bar and Grill in Mallorca, Spain, is
Wow.
using your jazz piece in the bar, and I'm thinking, well, if somebody's having a good time and that's in the background, well, hey, I've done a job.
So that's pretty cool. You're getting a lot of reach. This sort of intercontinental transatlantic reach for.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and part of the whole music thing is making things people enjoy. So that's got to be satisfying,
It is. I mean, half the time it doesn't work, which is, which is the other problem when people say, no, we don't like that. Got anything else? Sometimes it's like selling T-shirts, I don't like the blue. No, you got anything else? And that's all you brought is blue, so you got to work around that and you got to be very, almost callous about it. You think, well, that didn't work. Fine. I'll try something else, and you got to keep a real open mind, which is, it's tricky sometimes.
You have to be real objective and just say, okay.
Well, rejection's hard no matter where it comes from.
Exactly. So, but it's been fun. That's what I'm, like I say, that's what I'm doing at the moment. I'm doing 3 or 4 of these, and I'll be going over to England this summer and be, trying to take my wares over with me and see what happens.
So when I guess you're talking about the end product, right? Not necessarily any gear. I was about to ask a stupid question. Never mind. You said take your wares, and I for some reason I thought, hey, he's going to take some gear across with him. How does he fly all this stuff over there? Does he rent it when he gets there?
No, I don't actually do that. I just bring memory sticks with me. That's about it.
That's a lot easier.
But I do work over there. Occasionally I do write. There are a few indie writers that I work with over there, and I kind of got it down to just laptop or a phone and GarageBand, and figuring I'm trying to get things much more simple nowadays. I'm so tired of getting endless amounts of equipment that never really pay for themselves, and it doesn't really. I really want to get down to the real nitty gritty of just if you're writing a song, you're writing an atmosphere, you're just doing something, and you want to make it so you just boom, you knock it out and see what happens instead of like spending months on something, which gets very tiring after a while.
And it's really interesting to hear you say talking about down to the nitty gritty because I know a lot of people that they're always they're tone chasing. They're always looking for one more piece of gear, one more plug-in, one more.
Screw you, Dan.
I know. I just called Grant out. He's sitting like 2 feet from me.
Yeah, there you go. That's the way to do it. No, that's funny.
Hey, you're not wrong, Dan. You're not wrong.
Not wrong at all. But I don't know if you guys have seen this, but this is a really cool, and I don't even know where I saw it. It's one of these kind of websites with various news, and it was about this. She's an American artist, and I can't pronounce her. Billy Eilish. Does that sound right? Eilish, Billy Eilish, Ellish. She's like really super, just a pop, like you normally say, another pop singer. But they went to, she and her brother write together, and she's had a lot of stuff on Spotify now, some amazing tracks and stuff. And they do a little piece on his studio in LA. And it's the most amazing little piece I've ever seen because the guy just takes him in the house and he said, okay, here's the house. It's that tiny, tiny house in LA. And his parents, it's a 2-bedroom house. And the parents said, we don't have a room for everybody. You guys, you kids both share a room. And the parents sleep on a futon in the living room, right? And there's like 3 pianos in the house. They just got from, I don't know, from relatives or whatever. He's got a little computer set up there. I think he runs Logic. But he just says, this is my blood. I just want to get stuff down really simple. And they recorded the whole album in his bedroom. She's sitting on his bed singing, and he's like playing little instruments and a beat up old piano. And he said, I just want to get the emotion of the moment. And it sounds really cool. There's some really cool stuff.
Yeah, that's amazing to me, because now that you mention a few more details. I haven't heard any of the music, but I've definitely heard of this woman you're talking about, and she's really young, right?
Really young. She must be, I don't know, 18, something like that, 17, 18. I'm not really sure. But if you could check out, just go on Spotify, and some of the tracks are really just raw as anything. And she's like whispering, and it's just got a great, it's much more exciting than thinking that nowadays, the norm is like, some major artist coming out, whether it's country, pop, or R&B, they've got like, you look on, who wrote that song? And there's like 7 or 8 people writing the song. And there's, 2 producers, and there's a beat guy, and there's a track guy. And it's just like, guys, come on. To me, when you go in that way, I mean, some of it's good, I got to admit. I'm not saying everything's bad. But however, it just, to me, becomes very corporate sounding.
Yeah,
and
that's
it's writing by committee, and so you can't really say. And this thing, these 2 kids doing stuff, it's just like, boy, that's them. Them, her voice, because it's just quirky, but it's absolutely honestly them, and not like somebody else, which I think is really refreshing.
So do you think people are wanting to hear more like that? Do you think they're really starting to, because you said she's had a lot of success on Spotify. Do you think maybe we're starting to see kind of maybe not a rejection, but a turning away from maybe overproduced?
Overproduced, yeah. I mean, you got to remember that, I've been doing this for a long time, believe me, trust me. And it's like, I noticed everything goes in waves. And like I lived in England I went to England in the 70s, and I was there for 20 years till the 90s. And that went through so many permutations it was the tail end of the 60s. So you still had the bands, you had Clapton and all these people. And then boom, you move forward to the 80s, and then suddenly, before that, there was kind of a lot of singer-songwriter types and big, huge, overblown productions. And then, boom, the 80s come around, punk comes in, knocks that all off. And then you got the kind of new romantics, you got the super pop stuff coming on. So things are always changing in music, which is refreshing, in its own way. And I think once things get really saturated, obviously people are always looking for something new and refreshing,
Well, let me ask you something. Actually,
sure.
Dan, can you correct me on the quote of this? Dan brought up a thing the other day. I don't know, you saw it on Facebook or something, talking about, and this one really stings to me because I'm a guitar player.
Right.
But a lot of kids, when they go to a show and they see somebody with a guitar, they assume it's dad rock.
Mm-hmm.
What was it? What was the quote that was said?
No, it was.
I don't remember the exact quote.
I cannot.
Sorry, I put you on the spot, man.
No, I don't know that I'm.
That's mean, Grant.
I just don't know that I'm at liberty to share, because it was the person speaking was speaking under sort of not anonymity, but under the understanding that their identity would not be revealed. But they were working.
It's not that anonymous. Not to cut you off, but it's not that anonymous simply because this is not the only person I've heard this from.
Okay,
I've heard this from several people.
His producer working currently was working on some R&B and hip hop at the time, but was also concurrently producing a release from a really well-known rock band.
Mm-hmm.
And, said as much as it broke his heart to say so, it seemed like the attention was all going to the more streamlined, the pop acts, basically. And that, this person really didn't think that rock was dying necessarily, but that it was receding. It was going back into a hole. And I think Grant nailed the exact quote, was that right now, the generation that's coming up, kids see a guitar and they automatically assume that it's old and uncool.
Old dad rock, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That I can see that. Yeah. But then you got to remember that what my take on that is, and I totally agree with you. It's like they think, oh, well, that's that. But then I do some volunteer teaching in Nashville at a school for kids from low-income families. And we have a pop band, and we go through stuff, and suddenly they'll ask, can we do I said, what do you guys want to do this? What song do you want to learn? And they'll do like, oh, I want to do a Stevie Wonder song, right? I want to do Aretha. And I said, God, how you're 16? How do you know about Aretha? You know,
Oh, that
and
gives me
they
some
go,
hope.
well, oh, I heard it on a commercial, or it's at the tail end of a film. You know, and I think the younger, I know you're saying this particular generation, but there's always like kind of the next one that kind of goes, ooh, yeah, have you ever heard Led Zeppelin? You know, and they start asking these things,
Right?
And you think, well, that's cool because they found it, they heard it somewhere, and it is different. And I think that's what happens but it's over time. Like we're all too much involved in the industry, and it's kind of like, yeah, I don't like this, I don't like that. But honestly, there's some cool stuff going on, and I think a lot of these younger kids will take something of Aretha, some inflection of her voice, and some kid is going to nail it, but do it in their own way, and that becomes the next generation of.
Well, my daughter, who's 8 years old, really, it just tripped me out. She was walking through the house. This was probably a couple months ago. Some kids movie, I can't remember what it is. She was singing Blackbird by the Beatles, and I'm like, oh, I was like, that is one of my absolute favorite songs. She's like, oh, you like this movie? And I'm like, what movie? I was like, hold on, let me show you who the Beatles are. And I did. I pulled up Spotify, and I was like, enjoy. She's 8, and then she's like, can we listen to the Beatles every time we get in the car? And I'm like, yes, Dad win. Dad win.
Dad wins that one.
And, it's like, that's freaking awesome. But I guess my point is things become relevant in cycles and in different ways to different generations.
Yeah.
And I find it so exciting. Like my daughter, again, I'll play some music over my phone or something I've been working on in the studio. And if she's not dancing and asking about it, it's kind of like, dang it, I need to go fix that snare drum, or something.
Right.
Yeah, but it really is a good guide because, I mean, she's got a good musical sense. I mean, she's been figuring out stuff on the piano on her own just by ear. So I'm in the quest of finding a good piano teacher that will teach her notes and proper technique and stuff, but also cultivate that natural ear.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I don't want to squash that either, or the joy of doing it.
And you got to remember that all, as kids, there's always, they get influenced by things that you don't even think about. I remember as a kid listening to, hearing the Beatles, and that influenced you. And the same thing with the Beatles. I mean, one thing made me really interested in when their growing up period in Liverpool during that period of time, 50s, 60s, that there was there was a different generation. The families would get together around the piano and they'd sing these old rinky-tinky vaudeville songs, these real old school type tunes. And that made an impact on them. So, and you could say like, oh, there's so many great melodies that the Beatles did. Well, they got that because they had been subconsciously listening to all these old vaudeville things that parents were playing, and it's fascinating because they take that with them. And I think this generation will probably do the same thing. I'm hoping anyway.
Yeah, I believe so.
So
there's hope.
You say you work with a lot of the kids in Nashville, right? You work with a lot of kids in Nashville, younger
people?
I
do. Yeah, it's a volunteer school. It's called the W.O. Smith Music School in Nashville.
Oh, and, cool. I've driven by there. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's for kids from low income families. And this guy, W.O. Smith, was a great. Oh, I never met the guy because he died years ago. But he started in I think 1980. But he was primarily a jazz player from New York, and he played with Ben Webster, I believe. He played with a lot of jazz. He was a bass player, and then he got his degree in music, and he played, and then he moved to Nashville, played in the symphony, did everything basically. But he said, man, there's not enough schools for kids that have no money, and I'm going to get a school that you come in, you pay 50 cents, and I'm going to get all the the semi-pro professional people in town to come in and volunteer. And to this day, it's still doing the same thing. You've got symphony players there. You've got all sorts of great players in town that'll come in for once a week and they'll volunteer and play.
That's
and
really
it's still
cool.
50 cents to get a lesson, so it's really cool.
That is so freaking cool. Well,
Dan's
awesome.
Over
here geeking out because
he's
a professor at
Dan, the next time you're in town, I'll give you a tour of the school because it's a cool little school.
Oh man, I love that.
Well, he's a teacher at the University of North Alabama and Northwest Charles Community College too. He's an English nerd, so
an English nerd.
He'll correct my grammar. They're
I'm glad
there.
somebody does.
Oh, yeah. Well, hey, I had a question, especially since you say these are low income kids. I wanted to ask how much of what you see do you think it's maybe the shift in music right now, and maybe going back to the getting away from guitars thing? A long time ago, somebody I was talking to told me that the workstation and the MIDI controller were the new folk instrument because they were so much more affordable.
That was me telling you a conversation that Dave Pensato had.
Okay.
Was it Dave Pensato brought it up?
Yeah, Dave Pensato said that. We were at YouTube Nashville. He was filming a live show. He was interviewing, I can't remember who the songwriter was. Oh, God, I should remember that. The guy's written a lot. But anyway, he was having a conversation about how he made the statement that the folk instrument of today is the laptop, the kid in the mom's basement, just like the acoustic was in the 60s. And the concept that music changes and is influenced by technology. And he's like, without the 45, you don't have Elvis. Without the LP, you don't have Dark Side of the Moon, and so forth and so forth. So to put your head in the sand, and he's talking from a purely... The question, I think, was asked of him as kind of a Q&A thing, was like, what are your thoughts on AI, artificial intelligence, like, like Lander and stuff like that, you mastering via the internet and things, just artificial intelligence doing jobs for us, taking our jobs away and all that kind of stuff. And his whole point was like, look, it's here, it's going to be here. We can either work with it or work against it, use it to our advantages to work for us. But he was like, look, technology has always dictated the music industry as long as it's been an industry. And we can't stick our head in the sand and pretend it's not. So, yeah.
I totally agree with you. I mean, things are, constantly changing. And like you say, a lot of young kids are going that route. And it's interesting. I have a kind of yin-yang approach. I look at it kind of as like working with a screwdriver, say, and you're building a house or something. Yes, the electronic screwdriver, all the power tools now are fantastic. You can do stuff a lot quicker and everything. If you're getting into real craft work, sometimes you do need just a plain screwdriver, or get in a corner. You can't reach in a corner with a big power tool. So you got to do that. And I feel the same. I got stuff in my studio. I've got a lot of, fancy, I won't mention names as far as keyboards are, but there's some of these that, it's got Bluetooth and wireless and you can do all this stuff. And then what happens, when it's working, it's great. But there's some days you're trying to get an idea done quick and suddenly, the wireless, geez, I got to update my,
my God, I
Bluetooth
had that problem with a printer in my wife's office. I was ready to throw the thing out the window. It took me 45 minutes to plug up a printer.
Printer. I know. How ridiculous.
I mean, it was ridiculous because and I had a printer cable. I was just going to get on the internet, download the driver, the software thing. Okay, I get that. Okay, that's done. But you had to have the printer signed onto the internet in order to connect it. And I'm like, I mean, I love minimalism in so many ways.
Yeah, exactly.
But why did we regress from a printer copier scanner that worked great 20, 30 years ago to now? It's like, okay, it's cool that I can push print on my cell phone from 100 miles away and it will print at my office and be there when I'm ready for it. That's cool. But at a certain point, just give me a freaking cable and let me plug it up and go.
And go. Yeah. Get the time
anyway, sorry.
No, it's funny. And that's the world we're in. But, the world was that way. You go back, 20, 30 years, you're talking about, what happened to the 8-tracks? Doggone it, I want an 8-track cartridge now, but that's all gone, and suddenly CDs come in, and then suddenly CDs go, and it's just this endless cycle, and it's always been that way, So we got to, I treat it with respect, but at the same time, I love to sit down. Yesterday, instead of going and, I was talking about getting new sounds, and I did a thing, not on a box, but it was it's just my legs. I was hitting my legs with one of those. What do the drummers use? They're not sticks. They're like little brushes, but they're wooden. They're kind of like straw.
Like thunder rods.
Thunder rods, hot rods,
thunder rod. Yeah. So there I was on the plugins trying to get this really neat sound that Pro Tools had or somebody had. I'm trying to, and it's not. I can't load. I can't do this. And I said, the hell with it, And I take this down and I slap my knee, and it worked. It was done in 5 minutes, you know. And that's what I like about, but I mean, I'm still glad to have that, you know, so I'm not complaining about, you know, the plugins, but there's sometimes that you just want to go direct. Let's just do it and knock it out, you know?
Well, and that's exactly, I'm in the same thought process. There's so much hate on digital recording and Pro Tools. Mm-hmm. My main workstation is Pro Tools. I love it. I mean, I grew up using it, you know, and I love plugins, man. Some of the freaking, like the Waves.
Oh, yeah, the Wave stuff is great. No, there's some really wonderful.
You being a keys player, do you ever mess with any of their virtual instruments?
Not Waves instruments. Are they good?
Dude, I would like to know what your thought is on their take on their Wurlitzer and their Fender Rhodes. They don't say it.
I can tell you ahead of time. My curmudgeon is really kicking in now, so look out, guys. You know.
Well, no, that's what I was about to ask.
As one who has several Wurlitzers, I got like 3 at the studio.
They're not exact. In fact, there's a big difference. I prefer the real thing. I
but when you
agree
don't
with
have
you.
the real thing.
But for $30 for a plug-in,
yeah, exactly.
Holy
it's good.
crap! Is it close?
Well, is it close? Yeah,
and also it's different.
Well, and that kind of gets me around to the original question I was trying to ask whenever I was, I was asking about you working with these inner city kids and whatnot. Uh-huh. How much of this new shape of music and technology do you think is because, just the laptop and the MIDI controller and the free plugins are so much cheaper than a guitar and an amp and then finding...
And an instrument. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Yeah, and
may just be accessibility.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. The band I've got there, funnily enough, we are totally old school because we've got, I mean, not totally old school. I mean, the kid's playing piano. He's playing a Casio Previa, like a, portable keyboard.
Sure.
But everybody else, guitar, plug into an amp, drums, singers, we never even got into it. I wanted to go into doing some loops. We did a loop once, and again, we had a problem with, it's not plugging in. Something was wrong, so we gave up on that. But these kids are playing their instruments, and I'm just walking them through, man, I don't care what you do, and you may have all the greatest instruments in the world, but boy, somebody asks you to come out and play on stage, if you got a guitar, man, nothing beats that because it's instant. You're right there. It's not like, I got to bring my laptop. I got to plug this in. I got to do this and that. This is like, go on, show me what you can do.
No, that's awesome to hear. I'm being a curmudgeon too. Maybe I'm too young to be a curmudgeon, but no,
you can become a curmudgeon at any age. Honestly,
I think I did when I was 5. I think I started real young.
Well, we're audiophiles. We know the difference. We appreciate and love the craft. I mean, so
and I love a lot of lo-fi stuff as well.
I do too.
But
some of it's cool.
Oh yeah, but there's one thing, Grant, I was going to tell you. Well, Dan too, but about the plugins and everything. I mean, I tell you what. Have you ever heard of Ivory for the piano? Ivory plugins.
Yeah.
Okay. They're really high end, and they got a great Bosendorfer piano in there, which is great, which I use all the time. However, because I've got a piano at home, and it's pretty, it needs about 10 grand's worth of, work to it. It's completely, shot. It's a very old piano. But it was interesting. The other day, I was doing the Bosendorfer thing, the plug-in downstairs, and I was playing away, and I'm feeling okay, but I felt a little detached from this particular piece. And I went upstairs, and for some reason, I had an idea for another song, and I sat down at the real piano, and I just went, whoa, this is so immediate. I pushed my hand down, and boom, I am there. And I know you can do low latency in Pro Tools and all that and get it really tight. But I swear to God, there's a difference between playing a real instrument, hitting your thumb on a middle C on this plug-in, and then going upstairs hitting the piano. It's like bang, it's right.
Well,
I completely agree.
Yeah, absolutely. On that idea, I've got a little Lester, little small spinet piano that I bought from the 40s.
I bet they're great. Yeah.
Well, I got it because my space is sort of limited as far as like getting a big piano and things like that in
same here. It's like everybody's house. You can't get a piano, can you?
But also, at the same time, I wanted something that was good. It had been taken care of. The people that had owned it had maintained it, kept it tuned. I found out who the guy was that tuned it. He was the same guy that tunes all the pianos in the Muscle Shoals studios. So the guy knows what he's doing. I talked with him. I gave $150 for it, and got it moved, and is in good shape. And I wanted an acoustic piano because I'm in demo world a whole lot, and with a lot of songwriters, and I work with a lot of keyboard players, piano players, and stuff. And you play keys, right? So I mean, there is a difference in someone like me who is totally content with a MIDI controller.
Sure. Yeah.
Versus a real pianist and keyboardist. There's a big difference, and especially in terms of songwriting, because that's just something intangible. I don't know what it is that's there that is more inspiring, and you can feel it in the room. I don't know if it's psychological, like, hey, I'm sitting behind a real piano, because technically speaking, I mean, I've got some piano plugins that actually technically sound quote unquote better than my acoustic piano does. Right. But sometimes it doesn't fit right in the track. It's too big, it's too boisterous and too grand. I need something smaller sometimes. Also, the imperfections in something that's real or character. I mean, I really fully agree. I think what's cool about the virtual instrument side of things is that it's something different. It's just different. I mean, it's a tool. It's like, do you want the power screwdriver or the real screwdriver?
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. And if it gets the job done, if you're trying to put something down quickly and not worrying about miking up, it makes a difference. But on that same thing, Grant, I was saying that do you notice, because I've got like a couple of plugins for guitars, because I'm not really a guitar player at all. But I find that when I play it, I go, oh, time to call a guitar player in. This is ridiculous.
Right, and I've got guitar amp plugins that are freaking cool, but guitar's my main instrument. Okay, so man, God, if we go down Toneville, and talk about tone chasing, shut up, Dan. I mean, God, I'm that guy. I'm that typical guitar player that's like, no, it's not that Tube Screamer from 1984. It's the one that was released in December, right before 1985. And, it's like, oh, my God.
Meanwhile, I Jedi mind tricked a friend last week into using the exact same tone that he had just been complaining about for 20 minutes by tweaking a knob that didn't do anything. And then he recorded it, and he was happy.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a feeling of, this is my domain. This is my lane. This is an extension of myself. We have, as musicians, relationships with our instrument. And it's kind of hard to have a relationship with a piece of software.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, we like the guitar or the whatever. It's like, I've got that scratch on the backside of the headstock on this guitar, and it got there from this show that I played, and there's a story behind it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, very true. A piece of software is almost, I'm trying to remember exactly the phraseology you used, but it was like you were feeling distant from it. Like there's some separation.
There's some separation, exactly. Yeah. Now, Dan, are you a player yourself?
I am. I'm more of a player than I am. I'm not even a producer in the slightest sense of the word.
He's a great writer. Horn, trumpet, bass.
Oh, cool. Nice. Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Well, that's exactly how my mom says that. Oh, that's good.
That's good. That's good. Well, hey, you got to have something. Well, it's good that you can be a command of the English language and also play an instrument. See, I don't have that, so I'm jealous. No. I got to be honest.
Well, let's kind of move on. We've kind of beat that to death, but I fully agree that it's like, as a musician, as a creative, it's. I guess I would equate it to someone being a graphic designer versus being an artist. Not to say that someone is a graphic designer can't also be an artist, but there's a difference in taking a digital device and drawing in Adobe Illustrator on a computer screen or a tab versus having a real paintbrush or a pencil in your hand.
Exactly.
There's a difference. You don't have a relationship with your different types of paint and all that sort of thing. So, I mean,
and the worst thing about it is you think, well, what about the keyboard or drum machine you had like 15 years ago or some software 15 years ago? Well, you can't use it anymore. I can still get the old Wurlitzer out from 1979 or 80, whenever it was, and it still works, you know.
Well, it's kind of like, you know, computers, you know, sometimes they just get goofy on you and do stupid stuff because they're electronic. All electronics do. But like if channel 15 on your console catches on fire, you're not, well, I guess we're down to
14 channels.
Yeah. I guess we're one channel less. You know, we're not going to use that one.
You guys are taking that in stride much more than I would.
Well, it's luckily channel 15 is not currently on fire. I did have a session a few years ago where a compressor actually flamed up and caught on fire.
Oh my!
And I was like, well, after I put the fire out, I was like, well, I guess we're not compressing that.
Take the compressor off now.
You know, I guess that made us a solution or a decision for us. We're not going to compress the snare drum. You know. So,
that's funny.
All right. Well, so just kind of backtracking, you have worked on a ton of great music, and I looked up on All Music, just did a Google search, and, you know, knowing you for a few years, I didn't realize what all you had worked on, man. So do you care if I ask you a few questions about some of that?
Sure. Yeah, you can. I won't tell all the stories because.
Well, some of them probably.
I have to keep them to myself, but yeah, do fire away. Yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
Man, I'm really intrigued by the Tina Turner stuff, dude. Simply the best, and
what's love got to do with it?
What's love got to do with it? Well, I'll tell you what's love got to do with the story. That's the main one, because I was in England at the time. It was like mid '80s, about 84, something like that. And I was doing a lot of work with her. The guy that produced that, Terry Britton's his name. He's a great guitar player, and his co-writer Graham Mallow. We're old mates. We've been in live shows together. We've done a lot. We're just pals, you know, basically. And Terry called me up and he said, do you want to do this demo? We're trying to get some songs for Tina Turner. And everybody went, oh yeah, Tina has been. Yeah. Well, do you want to come down and do the demo? And I said, yeah, sure. So I came down to his house and we did the demo of What's Love. I played all the keys on that, all the different instruments, did all the parts and everything. Well, when it came time to actually record, she didn't really like the song for a start, which is funny. They had to really? Yeah, they had to really twist her arm into doing the song. But anyway, they were going to go in to record it, and basically, I was on the road with another band. I said, I'm not going to be able to make it. So I call up one of my dear friends, Nick Galini-Smith, who is another keyboard player. He's an arranger, conductor. He works with Hans Zimmer right now. He does a ton of conducting for movies. He's done all the Transformer films, Iron. He's done the Pirates of the Caribbean, all those. He's conducted all those and stuff.
Holy cow.
He was my buddy. So he took over the parts and played it out. And then she came into the studio. Well, initially, Terry was playing the track to her, and she literally kept her coat on. She was just ready to leave.
She wasn't having it.
And Terry... she said, Terry said, so what do you think? He said, well, I'm not sure. And Terry hadn't put the guitars on, and he's like an amazing guitar player. So somehow this goes, I don't know the whole story of it, but anyway, she's sitting with a coat on, and he plays the track, just kind of basic drums and bass, and then he picks up his guitar and starts playing, and she stood up and said, where's the microphone? She went straight in. She got it. She got it straight off the bat. So anyway, they did the whole track. They had it mixed, and I don't know, a couple weeks later, she came in to hear the final thing. And the only thing I played on it really at that point in time was the harmonica on it. It was a synth, or it was a Yamaha, DX7 synth. But I played the part on the demo, and they mixed the whole track, and they put a real harmonica on. She came in, and they said, "What do you think of the mix?" And she said, "I don't like it." And they said, "Why don't you like it?" And she said, I don't like the harmonica on it. And Terry, my friend, said, well, yeah, but it's a real harmonica. And she said, I don't care what you used on the demo, but get that guy back in again.
Oh, wow.
And I can hear that part in my head right now. Yeah.
Exactly. So they called me back in, and I put it on, and there it went. The thing took off like a rocket, and it sounds so much like the demo. The demo was just so close to the record. It's unbelievable, And again, they tried so many different things and went back to the original. It's a very basic, chord thing. So that's how it went. And the sad thing was, I was never in the studio when she was. So I just totally missed out on actually meeting her. But I don't care. I was on the track with her, so that's good.
Yeah, not a lot of people can make that claim. I think that's probably a pretty happy thing to be able to say, right?
Oh, it was. And again, it was one of those when I did the demo, and it had to be like the demo. And when I did the demo, apparently Terry said, well, man, you changed 2 notes. You just blew through it 1 take. And I just played it, and I wasn't thinking of it. We're all sitting there going, oh, Tina Turner, her career's over. It's just going to be another demo, just knock something out. So I knocked something out, and then who knew it went like boom, like a rocket,
Like the song, right?
Yeah, exactly. So,
well, I guess
it's an honor.
That's
a test.
That's a testament to it just goes to show you never know. Sometimes you go in the studio and you're like, okay, maybe, I don't know. And things have a life of their own just organically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we can't tell because there's something about that that we never, funnily enough, I'm going to sidetrack a little bit, but I was reading an article in the New York Times about this actress, Glinda Jackson. She's a great British actress. She's like in her 80s and she's still doing Shakespeare. She's an amazing woman. But she was telling the story that Laurence Olivier, the great actor from the 40s and stuff, he did a live performance in London years ago, and it brought the house down. It was like, this is the pinnacle of his career. And, everybody stood up. He had countless encores, blah, blah, blah. And they went back to the dressing room to see him. And he was in his dressing room just knocking things around. He was like mad as anything, mad dog, And they came in and said, Laurence, what are you doing? Because look, this is the pinnacle of your career. This is the moment. The audience, you were at the pinnacle of your career. Why are you this way? And he said, because I don't know why. He didn't know why that happened. He wanted to know, well, how can I do this the next performance? But you don't know. You got yourself, you got an audience, you got people taking it all in, and there's this just serendipity that just comes around and it all happens. But He didn't know either. He was just kind of, I'm so mad that I don't know the answer to that, so I could do it tomorrow night. He couldn't,
Yeah.
That's amazing. Thinking about it like that, it's kind of one of those lightning in a bottle moments, and it's just outside of your control. And I guess that's terrifying when your livelihood is hanging in balance.
But it's also exciting because from the recording side of things, I just hope to God I've got record pushed. And
that's the biggest thing, isn't it, for you?
And nothing catches on fire. It's like, don't accidentally hit the wrong button, push save, whatever, especially live. It's like,
oh, geez, yeah.
So, hey, guys, that's part 1 of our interview with Billy Livsey. I hope you, if you didn't know much about Billy before, I'm hoping you're starting to get a picture of who he is and some of the cool things he's gotten to do. And as always, please check us out on social media. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram. If you are feeling generous, you can find us on Patreon. And for $1 a month, you get all kinds of bonus content. You get episodes about a week early. You get episodes that have some content trimmed out of it that for one reason or another didn't make it in. And sometimes you get bloopers, every now and then you get us acting a fool. Or, hey, if you don't want anything at all, you don't have to take it. If you're feeling generous. The podcast is free. It's always going to be free, but it's not free for us to produce. We're just trying to offset our costs a little bit.
Yeah.
So, if you can spare a third of a cup of coffee a month, please head over to the Patreon. We're Tape Noise Podcast, and we're eternally grateful. But if not, hey, we understand that too. Times are hard, and there's been times for me that $1 would have been real tough, So we get it.
And most of all, just thank you for listening, telling your friends, and please give us ratings and reviews. It helps us a lot. It gives us a lot of feedback that is beneficial to us and helps us give you guys a better product, I guess is the right word.
A better listening experience.
Yes. Listening experience.
Well, and it's all of the time I have people say, how can I support you? And what they're asking is, how can I support you without buying merchandise? Which is fine. Now, this is Dan the musician talking, not Dan the podcaster. And the answer to that is so simple. It is tell your friends. If you have friends, and I'm not talking about us right now, although if you're listening to this, you're our friend. We don't know you, but you're our friend.
Yeah, thank you.
But if you have friends that are making creative things, they make cool things, they make music, they make art, whatever it is they're doing, if you can't support them monetarily, which, again, I'm a teacher, I get it. You can't always support your friends monetarily. Share what they're making. Right?
Well,
not
only that, yes, I 100,000% agree, yes. Please, 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 we beg you for that. Thank you. And also a big thank you to those of you who already have done such.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you. But also just a kind word. That's nice. If you like what you're hearing, cool.
Send us a message, and hey, we're really good about responding to our Facebook messages.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
Come back next week for part 2. It's going to be the last half of our interview with Billy. Lots of cool stuff in that half, and I think you'll learn a little bit more about him. And hey, come back and see us.